6-minute podcast. Business, study, life.
All right, let's dive into this deep dive on remembering everything you read.
Yeah.
This is going to be a good one. There's this YouTube video that someone sent in, and it seems like everybody wants to know how to remember more of what they read.
Yeah, well, I mean, who hasn't gotten to the end of a chapter and been like, wait, what did I just read?
Totally. So this video starts off talking about this guy, Kim Peek. Have you heard of him?
Yeah, Kim Peek was fascinating. He could remember entire books word for word, and he knew calendars backwards and forwards. Crazy stuff, but
It's wild.
he had trouble with abstract thinking.
Really?
Which I think is really interesting because it kind of shows that maybe perfect recall isn't really the goal.
Okay, so if not total recall, then what should we be aiming for when we're trying to remember what we read?
I think it comes down to remembering what's actually useful.
Useful.
Think about it. You're constantly bombarded with information these days, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So if you're trying to learn a new skill or understand a complex topic, you don't necessarily need every single detail. You need the stuff that's actually going to help you reason, make connections, solve problems.
Okay, so how do we sift through all the noise and pick out the good stuff?
Well, this video talks about this system called PACER, which is kind of like a mental filing system for information.
PACER, okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
It helps you categorize the information and then apply the right learning techniques to actually retain it.
Okay, so break down this PACER acronym for me. What does it stand for?
Okay, so P stands for procedural.
Procedural.
And that's basically how-to knowledge. So if you were learning how to perform a clinical exam, that would be procedural knowledge.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And in the video, they said that immediately practicing the skill is key to remembering this type of information.
Exactly.
Because I can read all about baking a cake, but until I actually get in there and get my hands dirty, it's not really going to stick.
Exactly. And that kind of highlights this important point, which is the balance between consuming information and digesting it.
Ooh, I like that.
Right.
Consuming and digesting.
You need both.
Yeah.
So don't just cram it in. Take time to really understand it and apply it.
Okay, so we've got P for procedural. What's A?
A is for analogous.
Analogous.
And this is where you link new information to stuff you already know.
Yeah.
So if you're a swimmer, you could connect the concept of muscle contraction to how you move through the water.
Gotcha. So you're basically building on what you already have in your brain.
Exactly. And the cool thing is this video actually encourages you to critique your analogy.
Ooh.
So ask yourself, how are these things similar? How are they different? Where does the analogy break down?
Okay.
And that questioning actually strengthens your understanding.
I like that. So don't just accept an analogy at face value. Really pick it apart.
Right.
That's clever.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to C. What does C stand for?
C is for conceptual. And this is about grasping the big picture, the why behind the facts.
Okay.
So the video uses World War I as an example. It's one thing to know the dates and the players, but understanding the underlying causes and consequences, that's what gives you real insight.
And for this type of information, the video suggests using mind mapping.
Exactly.
Which I love mind mapping.
Yeah, me too. By visually organizing the information and connecting the dots, you're basically building the same kind of knowledge network that an expert has.
So you're creating your own mental map of the subject.
Exactly.
All right, so we got P for procedural, A for analogous, and C for conceptual. What's E?
E is for evidence.
Evidence.
Yeah. So it's all the supporting details that kind of back up those big ideas, specific dates, names, statistics, the stuff that brings a concept to life.
So for our World War I example, this would be things like specific battle dates, the names of key figures, maybe even casualty numbers.
Exactly. And the key here is how you actually store and rehearse this information. The video suggests, adding details to your mind map, creating flashcards, using note-taking apps, whatever helps you capture those details and then revisit them later.
Because let's be real, memorizing a bunch of random facts can be kind of a drag. But when those facts are linked to a bigger idea, suddenly they're not so random anymore.
Right. That's the beauty of the PACER system. It's you can see the forest and the trees.
I like that.
And then rehearsing this information is really about putting it to use. So can you explain the concept to someone else using those specific details? Can you answer practice questions that require you to recall those facts? That's how you solidify your understanding.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got PACE on the last letter, R. What does R stand for?
R is for reference.
Reference.
Yeah. Think of this as the quick facts, those little bits of trivia that might be useful for a quiz or something, but they don't necessarily deepen your understanding of a topic.
Gotcha. So like specific values in a formula, the name of a particular gene, a list of attributes for coding, like the nitty-gritty details that you might need to know, but not necessarily the core concepts.
Exactly. And for this kind of information, flashcards and spaced repetition are your best friends.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. Don't get bogged down memorizing these details while you're still trying to grasp the big picture.
Yeah.
Focus on the conceptual stuff first and then layer in the reference information later.
Okay, so it's like don't get lost in the weeds before you even see the whole field.
Exactly.
I know I've definitely fallen into that trap before.
Yeah?
Like getting so caught up in remembering every little detail that I totally lose sight of the main point.
It happens. But by using the PACER system, you can really prioritize your mental energy. Focus on the most important information first, and then save those reference details for later.
So to wrap things up, PACER is all about understanding what kind of information you're dealing with and then using the right technique to actually learn it.
Exactly. And it's not just for students or academics or anything like that. Anyone who wants to be a more effective learner can benefit from this.
So before we finish up, let me ask you this. Think about something you're currently trying to learn. Maybe it's for work or a personal project or just for fun. Which PACER category does it fit into? And what strategies can you use to really make that information stick?
That's a great question for everyone to think about. Remembering everything you read isn't about cramming in more information. It's about learning how to learn. And that's a skill that'll benefit you in every aspect of your life.
6 Minute Podcast.